right, welcome to the show. I'm Joey Troxel.
I'm Debbie Chu.
And here we are together, Deb, right?
Yep, finally.
I'm sure people how did how did this happen? Like, how did we come to be? And I don't, what do you want to say? How did this happen?
Well, I started following you, probably just like a lot of people, and I just loved your message. And I felt like at some point we kind of turned the corner at the same time and
Yes.
started doing things. Like I felt like we were living parallel lives, and I thought this would be a really good collab. And I think I messaged you and you messaged me like we should do this, and then we finally are getting it done.
So I'm always amazed when that happens, right?
Right.
And then I was following you, and maybe I've commented. I don't know. A lot of times I'm watching from the television, right? So I can't leave a comment. But you made the cookies video that Lex and I redid. And I was like, oh my God, these look really good. Like, I want to make these, right? And you had just made them. Like, I'm going to tell everyone about this, and I'll give you a shout out, and we can kind of finally start our, our friendship online. So, and then, and I tagged you, and you saw the video, and we both loved that. So that was awesome. So I think we kind of started from there, right?
Right. And then we finally just, a couple weekends ago, finally met in person. And I think we just clicked. And
we did. And the other thing was our birthdays were like a day apart.
Right.
Or I was like, I'm going to go to this festival. You're like, I'm going to this festival. I was like, oh my gosh. So it became this like adventure now for both our families. Like we dragged our spouses. They were like, right. I got to meet Deb and we got to figure out what we're going to do. And it was like, all right. And they were really good about it. We just dragged them around, right?
Oh yeah, they're used to it. My husband's totally used to it.
So it was just kind of an organic thing. And here we are. And you're right. We kind of were doing the starch solution. And then I was went to the trainer and realized what I was doing wrong and how I had to have more protein. And I think as we get older, right, our needs change.
Exactly. And I think it's important to grow and evolve. And, if something's not working, then try something else. You can always go back to what you were doing. But the protein thing was, I think, the biggest thing. I thought, well, God, I've been doing this starch solution, and it was like in the beginning, it was great.
Yeah.
But then I was like, I have no energy, and things weren't working.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. And protein always was a word I was scared of because that's bodybuilders. That's like Brian Turner and Derek Simon, those guys that look amazing and that I look up to and all that. But look at them, right? They need a lot of protein. I'm just a little guy. I'm like 5'2". I don't like protein. I don't need that much, right? And in the end, it's not about what you look like. As we get older, we need more.
Yeah, 100%, because our bodies don't utilize protein like it did when we were younger. So we need to increase it. And we start losing muscle mass, when we're like 30. We just starts going down in every decade. So when we're you just turned 60, I just turned 68. And
we want to tell everyone that, but okay.
No, I think it's important.
It is.
Put
it out there. Own it.
This is what our age looks like.
Yes. I agree.
And so it was just really important to me to just do that research. And when I found that out about, I'm like, I'm putting protein in, so.
And that's exactly what happened to me. And then of course we see the benefits pretty quickly, right? Within 30 days, you're like, wow, I feel like I can do more and get myself, getting off the couch before was just like, oh gosh, now I got it off the couch. I've been sitting here for 20 minutes. Now it's no problem. So, age has this way of making you feel like, well, this is what you're supposed to do when you're old.
Right.
And the reality is, no, it really is up to you, right?
Right, 100%. Yeah.
Well, I think today we decided that and so this is the other thing. I don't know if anyone even realized this, but in my group and in your group, we decided at the same time, or at least in our socials, that we were going to ask people to give us questions that they were interested in.
Mm-hmm.
No one said to me, oh, by the way, I saw that on Chew on Vegan that they're asking for, I don't know if anyone caught that or not, but that was why we did that. All right. So why don't you go ahead first? I'll go ahead and put your question on the screen. And that was one of the first questions that you got asked.
Right. What have I noticed lately since increasing my protein? One of the biggest things was my energy level. And I have a lot more energy, and especially in the gym, I feel like I can really work out a lot harder. And I noticed getting muscle definition, and I'm full longer. I'm not as hungry. So it's all been positive. It's positive results from doing that. How about you?
I've noticed the exact same thing. I still have eating disorder habits. I've never said I had an eating disorder. I don't know that I do, but in my mind, I think I do, because if I just walk by something in the fridge and I go, oh, and I'm not even hungry, I'm going to eat it, right? So I'm like,
Right.
is that an eating disorder? Or is that just like we're so just kind of habitual stuff, right?
Right.
So I don't know what that is, but I'm like, I'm not even hungry. Why did I eat that? So I still have that I'm dealing with, but for sure that I feel like I'm fuller, longer with protein-rich foods, and I don't even think about food between meal unless somebody puts something in front of me that now I'm like, why is that here?
Right.
Right? Otherwise, it wouldn't trigger me. So I kind of feel the same way.
Right.
I think that, let's see, let's go to my question here. So my question, or someone asked me, was, where do you get your ideas for new recipes, and could you take us through the process of modifying this? And I think this is probably how we both do it. I think there was one way of doing it before the protein thing happened, but starting with the protein thing, my requirements were so specific. What I was doing was not what the rest of the vegan community was doing, and it was almost like scary to ask anyone if you couldn't find any recipes, and I almost didn't want to say I'm doing high protein, low calorie, because vegans are like, we don't need to worry about protein, right? Or you just eat fruits and carbohydrates, you'll be fine. And as we now know, like, you can absolutely overeat calories right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, right. So I mean, I'm living proof, right? So here's what I do. It's a combination of like doing both, creating my own and using other people's. In the beginning, I would use, I would see recipes I was inspired by, like your cookie recipe, and all I did on yours was change the amount to get more protein per cookie. But I would see people's recipes and be like, oh, I could make that, right? And I would change it to be starch solution compatible, or if it was, I'd make my own changes to it. Because a lot of times, even if I make recipes I'm not going to duplicate, I still go, oh, this would have been better with the chipotle sauce or something, like, right?
Right.
And I'll make that. And you kind of do the same thing, I'm sure. But when I often use other people's recipes. I mean, making your own recipes every single time is just impossible. I mean, who has time for that, right?
Right.
But when the protein thing happened, when I went to the trainer, he said, you're going to need 1,400 grams of calories, 1,400 calories, and 140 grams of protein every day. And I was like, looking at the protein from beans and potatoes, and I was like, okay, this is like 35 for the day with like 2,000 calories. So I have a problem, right? Like, now what do I do, right? Did you have the same realization?
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, how does this doesn't work out?
No, right. And I'm a teacher. I'm like, listen, I'm not a math teacher. I was. Right now I'm computer science, but there's no math that works out in here, right? Like, I can add letters and carry and do it cross multiply. It's not happening.
Right.
So I realized very quickly that I needed what I eat in a day videos with 140 calories and 140 grams of protein and 1,400 calories. So I went looking, right? The Vegan Gym and all these guys and Simnit, and they're doing 1,800 calories, right? 2,200 calories, 30, and no one's doing 14. So I had to make all new recipes myself. I had to figure out where the protein sources were, right?
Right.
And create recipes that work. So, I mean, how did that work for you? Is that what you did?
Yeah, basically. My goal was to get at least 100 grams, because when I started tracking and saw that I was getting maybe 50 grams a day, and I'm like, okay, I've got to at least double it. And I'm like 110, 120. That's kind of where I land. So yeah, it was just a lot of trial and error. And I saw this one video from a nutritionist. She's not vegan, but it still applies. But it was the rule of 10. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
No.
Where you take the number of grams of, like, say beans, okay? Half a cup of beans, let's say, is 8 grams of protein. But for the calories for half a cup of beans is what, 120?
200. It's
200.
Yeah.
So if you add a 0 to that 8 of the protein, which is 80, and you see how far away it is from the calories, so you want your protein as close to that calorie count as you can get. So when I started seeing tofu was like great, ratio there, tempeh, I'm like, what am I doing? So I just went full on the soy milk, the tofu, and that made it easy.
I absolutely agree with you. I've never heard that, but that is what I do. I try and get 1 gram of protein for every 10 calories. So if something's 100 calories, it needs to have at least 10 grams of protein, right?
Right.
Because my number is 4,400. So when I'm making a meal, I want it to be 400 calories ish, like 375 to 425,
Right.
and 35 to 42 calories, somewhere around there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's a really a good way to look at that for sure.
Right. It's easy. It's a quick, you can just turn the ingredient thing around and you can just really quick in your brain figure that out. Not that beans are bad, and
No.
it's like, please eat beans, they're great. But if you're trying to increase your protein, you're going to go over your calories if you're trying to lose weight.
I don't know if you ever saw the video I did when I did the conversion to high protein, and I showed like, here's what I'm currently eating, and I showed black beans or all the beans, and it was like, in order for me to get 140 grams of protein in beans, I would have to have like 3,000 calories just for that, right? Just for the beans, right? Like, it didn't make any sense, right? Do we get enough protein as a vegan doing all this? We sure do, enough to survive, but your needs change as you get older. So,
well, and if you're trying to build muscle, which we were both trying to build muscle, so you can't
muscle burns fat, so we're like, let's get some, right? Like, I have me.
Right. Bring it on. Right.
All right, let's go to another question here. So here was your second question.
My exercise routine is very simple. I walk every day. I try to get my 10,000 steps. Doesn't always happen, but that's my goal. And then I go to the gym 3 times a week, and I do maybe 15 minutes on the treadmill and then at least 30, 40 minutes with weights. And I try to lift as heavy as I can with less reps because I want to build muscle. So I'll do maybe like 4 or 5 reps, and I'll do 3 sets of those that I can do the highest weight, still keeping good form and not hurting myself. And that's been working great. And so, I always tell my ladies of my age or, around there that you got to lift weights. It's not really an option, it's not optional. And because I've been telling, everybody, you want to be strong, not skinny. I mean, you don't want to be overweight, but let's get out of this mode where I got to be skinny.
So kind of my question that I got asked, it's kind of very similar. Like I do the same as you. How do you fit workouts into your day? I mean, this is something that we probably both deal with. I'm having a hard time doing that. I'm a college teacher, and work swallows up my time, that and caring for my dogs. Oh, bless your heart. Yeah, I mean, finding time in the day, we're all busy, right? Like, especially you and I, we have full-time jobs, and we have this YouTube channel, which we have to have content ready to go every week and film, and like, it's a lot of work, right?
Right.
So, I hear them for sure. So, I start with, when we went to the trainer, we realized I was going to have to go 3 to 4 days a week. I started with 3 and I went to 4. I go to work in the morning. I get up at like 6:15. I shower and all that, and I'm at work by 7:20. The school day starts at 7:30. Teachers have a prep period where they have one class where there's no class, where they prep, and that's my first period. So really, I could be late, but I just don't do that. So that's my prep period. But I'm at work at 7:20. My end time is 2:10. But I'm the advisor for 5 different clubs, right? Skills USA and table tennis and computer science honors. Like, it just goes on, right? Because I really am bad at saying no. Mr. Troxel, can you be our advisor? All right. So I do this, and I'm there for the kids, whatever. So I'm there till about 3:30. Now, the good thing for me is the gym is like across the street from my school. So I take all my stuff with me Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and I'm either gonna skip it and drive right by it, right? Or I've got my stuff, I'm just going in, right? Yeah. So I force myself to do that. The other thing is, I had an LA Fitness membership for 5, 6, 10 years, I don't know. And for the last 3 or 4 years, I didn't go to it. So, the $29 or $30 was enough for me to pay every month and not feel like, oh, hell, I'm going. I ain't just paying that for nothing. But the money I'm paying to this guy for me just to show up, right?
Yeah.
Is enough for me to go, oh, yeah, I'm going. Because you got to pay him in the beginning of the month, right? So money's a good motivator for me, right? Because I'm just, right? Yeah. So I force myself to fit it in. So Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, right after school, which is my job, right to the gym. I'm there an hour, sometimes an hour and a half, but I don't have to be. But I warm up for, I mean, we're getting old. I warm up for 20, 30 minutes every day, right? And then I start my procedure. And then after that, I go home. And I've also, if you ever watched my What I Eat in a Week for Teacher Edition for lunch,
Mm-hmm.
I've got like this Herman, nobody knows who this is, but you and I do, the Herman Munster lunchbox, right?
Yeah.
That he had was this big, and all my stuff's in there up
Right.
until the gym, right? So I'm like not going, oh, I'm really starving, I got to get home and eat. I might be eating my food. So I mean, that's how I do that. I structure my day ahead of time, and I plan to make sure that that I've got that. And then when I get home, I still have to make Lex meals. I've got to make my own meals. I've got emails to read for YouTube. I've got to structure videos. I mean, I've just got other stuff I have to do. So,
But you hit the nail on the head. You have to schedule it in your day.
Yeah.
And I got to go early. I got to go before work because after work's not going to happen for me. That's just how it works for me. But it's just like it's part of my day, and that's what I do. And I never regret going. Sometimes I'm like, ugh, I don't want to go, but I just say you're going because you're going to feel good. So it kind of gets addicting after a while, and you want to go. So.
I feel like you got your little headphones on. If you got headphones and you're in your zone, you're doing your thing. And I mean, again, I have a trainer who's training me and like 5 other people. It's just one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
So I really am doing my own thing. He'll just go, okay, next you're doing that. Okay, right?
Yeah.
But there are many times, at least once a week, where I go, I don't want to go, but I've never left the gym and went, or I've never left the training and went, I'm so sorry I did this. Right? Like
exactly.
You're just like, let's go, right? And if anything, I'm gonna stay right on track the rest of the day, right? Whatever. So,
exactly.
Well, I think you and I explaining this. I mean, it's kind of weird. Like I don't have someone. Like some of these people who have like millions of subscribers. They've got people editing their video. They've got people. We have to do this for ourselves, right? So we have jobs at home that we have to work, right? So if we can do it, they can do it. You guys out there can do it if we can do it, right? And is it always perfect? It's not sometimes.
Right. And if this person's a college teacher, they have a lunch break. Yeah. Walk. I mean, that's the minimum you could do is walk. And a lot of colleges have gyms that the teachers can use. So that might be something this person can do before their workday starts. Go to the gym. So you just got to figure out what works for you.
I agree. Yeah. But fitness comes in all different forms. I've thought about recently. So at work, I never think about this until I have to get a sub. But at work, I don't have a chair because I have the platform. My desk is up. Right?
Oh, okay.
So I stand all day. I do my whole classes all day long, standing up. And then I'll have to get a sub sometimes because I'm going on a trip or something with the kids. And I get back and I see my desk is up there, but the chair's down here. And I almost realized, oh my God, I didn't lower the desk for them, right? Like, who does this? Who stands all day? So I feel bad about that. But that's one of the things I do. I'm constantly moving around. I'm not sitting down. It isn't until I get home to edit videos like you probably do when you sit down going, there's a lot of sitting down.
Yeah.
Right? Like I normally don't do this.
Right.
Yeah. There's time for the gym. You just kind of have to make it. And like we've been talking about, you have to schedule it, right?
Yeah. Or get some weights and do it at home. There's lots of YouTube videos you can watch.
I think that's a good idea. Actually, let me go to your next question. All right. You got a question here. Let's see what this is about.
I think I've already answered this. I started out doing 100. I'm like between 110 and 120 a day.
All right. Well, you did answer. Let's go to another question that someone had asked you.
Okay. The one thing, frozen veggies.
Oh, yeah.
Frozen is great. And also food prep. Not meal prep, but food prep. I make a ton of tofu at once. I've got rice, I've got potatoes, I steam a bunch of veggies, and that's all in the fridge. So there's really no excuse. I can come home and just take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and I have a meal, throw a sauce on there, and good to go. So those are the 2 things that I do on a regular basis, is use frozen vegetables and do the food prep. Saves me.
I think those things not only give you a hack for doing things faster, but they push and control things for you too.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm going to cook all that stuff. Like we make seitan all the time. I portion it out into little, servings, whatever they are, 96 grams or something for my whatever gives me calories. I already know in Chronometer what that is, and bang, bang, bang. It makes it easier to plan, right? The day ahead. So I agree with you on that. I think the frozen veggies, and I like that you don't say meal prep, you say food prep, because I can eat the same meal every day, but people can't just. You've seen people do videos though where here's my my vegan meatloaf and carrots and something, and it's in 5 containers and they're having it every day all week long, right? And then by the third day they're like, oh man, I had that the other 2 days, right? Where if they just made the seitan meatloaf thing, right, then they could make a new meal out of that every day, right? So food prep is so much better than trying to be so perfect on prepping the whole week that you've made actual meals the whole week that is the same that you're not even going to eat, right?
I think it's less overwhelming for people if they can just make a bulk potatoes, whatever,
Yeah, I think it's a good idea just to have a plan however you do this, but that's surely one way to do it. All right, let's go to one more question here. Do you ever get really hungry and realize you've already eaten most of your calories for the day? No, not at all. And what do you eat then? This never happens. All right, so everyone knows. So I talked about this. I used to go to Weight Watchers, right? And Weight Watchers, one of the reasons I left Weight Watchers is because, well, one wasn't working, but you would have these points. Did you ever do Weight Watchers?
Years ago, but yeah.
But you got the points, right? I did too, smart points or whatever. And they would say you have 28 points for the day, and it's 3:00 and you're at like 30 points. You're like, well, now what do you do, right? Well, the one thing I did learn on that, because I was like, 30 points, they don't know me at all, right? They don't know who they're dealing with, right? The one thing I learned that there were 0-point foods, like spaghetti squash was 0 points, right? You remember all that stuff?
Right.
So while I was technically done eating, there was still foods that I could eat, right? Mm-hmm. I do the same thing now. First of all, this normally, most often doesn't happen because I plan my whole day the night before, including vegan Jello and all sorts of stuff. Plan my snacks, my little fails, everything, right? But if it does happen, if I'm out of food, and it's 3:00 or 4:00, there are lower calorie foods that we can eat. We're just doing this now for the meal prep video we're releasing. I've always got watermelon, right? Watermelon, 100 grams of it is 30 calories, right? And then if you feel like you need 300 grams, a bunch of it, then I'll have the 300 grams. Now I'm at 100 calories. I'll go up on my gym and I'll do a little bit of stretching, or I'll just walk around the neighborhood and just try to burn the 100 calories off. But if I had eaten 4 cupcakes or something because I was snack eating, now I'm at 1,000 calories. I'm not walking that off. So I used to do this with Starch Solution. I have foods as backups in case I have to eat something what I don't need to be eating.
Right. And when you've done this long enough, I don't think there's been an occasion I've not had something to eat in my thing for a long time. You just prepare mentally, And we haven't talked about Chronometer. That's another good little hack. And then you get to know how much calories are in foods, pretty much easily. So like you said with the watermelon.
Well, and that is because of Chronometer, right?
Right.
That's because you start putting that in and you're like, oh, this is a low calorie food.
Right.
Remember that. And then in this lifestyle, it's normal to eat some of the same things a few times a week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, find something that works and stick with it. So yeah.
I mean, we all eat maybe the 5, 6, 7, 8 meals the same. Just eat them, repeat. It's easy. I mean, it's easy for me now. When you're a beginner, it's tough. I know. It's confusing.
There's probably a lot of we had, well, for me and probably for you, we went from one program to another. So the questions weren't that bad because we weren't just starting to take control of our lives, right?
Right.
But when I did the Starch Solution Facebook group, people would come in and go, "Where do I get started?" And other people would be like, "Well, do a search." And I'd be like, "Don't tell them that. Don't be mean to them. Tell them, hey, I've got some ideas. Check out this video. Let me know if you have any help," because they just don't know when it seems overwhelming, right? So it's really important to first of all surround yourself with people you like, but to ask questions and try not to let any change that you're making, maybe, you know, with coming to the new year soon, this would be a good time to think about this. Try not to let any change be so overwhelming that, you know, you're just not going to do it anymore, right?
Right.
So, I mean, it can't be scary. Otherwise, you just won't do it.
Right. Baby steps.
Babies, yeah. Progress over perfection, right? It's kind of what I say all the time. Yeah.
Yep. Definitely.
All right. So the way this podcast works is that you give us your questions and we talk about them together. That's how it's going to work going forward.
Okay, so thanks everybody for watching and listening to all our questions and answers. We really appreciate it. And if you want more stuff like this, then hit like and subscribe. And we're here to help you. We got your back.
Yeah, I think we're going to alternate probably where you find these videos on the two channels. So if you're following this new show here, Plant-Based Besties, so just check out me and Deb on YouTube. And you won't miss an episode, right?
Right.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.
Okay. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.